So I did. Joe Biden the other day be like, yeah, man. Yes. Did he say we have to stay in?
I think he just deployed more troops.
Yeah, to Afghanistan. Yeah, man. Just trying to fuck over these.
Man,
Iranian
he
youth.
said it would be a return to normalcy, and he was not lying.
He was not lying, bro. Like,
not
I don't
lying.
want that normal, dog. I don't want that normal. I don't want that.
either.
I don't want that normal. I don't want never-ending war. But all right, guys. Thank you for coming.
Speaking of war,
thank you for coming back to another episode of Hard Fire History. We appreciate you. You don't appreciate us. I love you. All right, that's fine. Thank you guys for being here. Guys, like, follow, share all the stuff, subscribe, follow us on everything. But without further ado, we're gonna get into this week's episode. Yeah, we're gonna take a break last week because of failing infrastructure in Texas. This week
we're rugged individualists. God damn it! That's why we're taking a break. Okay.
This week we're back, and we're continuing our Black History Month package with the figure today, and that figure is the King of Kings, Haile Selassie. King of Kings, Haile Selassie. You guys, you familiar, Henry? With the King of Kings?
I thought Jesus was the King of Kings, man.
I mean,
that's what I thought the phrase was from.
I mean, some people say this might be the second coming of Jesus. Some people say that. Some people who your white friend tries to convert to their religion and starts wearing red, yellow, and green all the time. But he doesn't understand the tenets of the religion.
Does his hair in dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And he's always posted up in the yard of a house that you pass by when you walk home, and you wonder why all the cool kids are at that house and why they're always hanging out in the garage all the time, and it smells a little weird.
Smells weird.
Girls want to hang out there. And his name is Paco, and he brings his fucking acoustic guitar to school sometimes, and he has dreadlocks, so you can't really knock him for bringing the acoustic guitar, but
I don't know.
Everybody wants to get to know Paco until you get to know him, and then you're like, wow.
Here's the thing about Haile Selassie. I have no information on if he smoked weed or not. I have no clue about that.
Okay.
But he looks like a man who has never touched a joint in his fucking life.
I've seen some pictures. He kind of looks a little straight and narrow. You know what
he looks straight down the fucking narrow.
He looks like he's part of the DARE program.
He does look
proponent.
He looks very straight and narrow. And guys, without further ado, we're going to Haile Selassie, King of Kings. The book that I read for this episode is going to be by Asfa Wussen Asarate, King of Kings, The Triumph of Haile Selassie, of Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia. This book is Asfa Wussen Asarate. He's like a kid of like a kind of, or not aristocratic, but like kind of a bureaucratic higher up. So he's writing from kind of the purview of what would intentionally be the upper class in Ethiopia. He's writing from a person descended from that. And he was there fucking in the 60s more when he was coming of age. And I think going off to college and all that type of stuff like that.
Okay.
And then he's lived. I don't know if that nigga's still alive, but I hope he's still alive. What's up, Asarate?
How you doing, man?
Oscar Wilson, Asarate.
This is also brought to us. The suggestion for the episode, who pointed us this direction, is supposedly our number one fan, Dominic Goulding, over there in the United Kingdom. Thank you for the suggestion. I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope B117 is not kicking the UK's ass too bad. I really hope that we can also do a good enough job to where you're just like, oh, y'all are a sham. Like, you butchered it.
You butchered
the man.
You butchered the man. But all right. So in order to understand Haile Selassie, you have to understand the Ethiopian Empire. And in order to understand the Ethiopian Empire, you have to understand that the Ethiopian Empire comes from this place called, or is interchangeable with this place called Abyssinia, which is in antiquities, which is like a word that I just learned and I keep using.
Good word.
in ancient history, is an empire and kingdom on the Horn of Africa. Abyssinia shows up in Greek antiquities. It shows up all over, antiquity, like Middle Eastern antiquities. Abyssinia is a historical place that was situated in a lot of the literature that we know. And to understand why Haile Selassie has the claim to the throne of Ethiopia, or can ascended. One thing you have to know about being king in Ethiopia in these times is you have to be part of the Solomonic bloodline. And that means that you are descended. That's where everybody from the Ethiopia that tried to be Ethiopian king was descended from Solomon from the Bible.
Okay.
So because there's a I don't know if it's in the Bible. I don't know what I don't remember. I don't really know. But
which one is Solomon?
Solomon's like a distant cut. Like if I have this right, Solomon's the son of David. And then if you split David,
which David?
I feel David, like the Jesus, like the King David of the Bible, like the main David, the big one.
The big dog.
The David. The David. So David has a son named Solomon. And this is, the Bible is a book of contradictions. I'm a Christian. I'll say it. And I think in Matthew, it has Jesus being descended from Solomon.
Okay.
And then I think, and then in Luke, it has Jesus being descended from Isaac, which is another son of David. Like, you know what I mean? So technically, in this kind of like history of Ethiopia, the Queen of Sheba, which I'm pretty sure is from Abyssinia, I'm pretty sure.
That sounds right.
Goes and meets up with Solomon. They have a baby. They fuck it out. You know what I mean? They have a child. That child is named Menelik the First. And then every Ethiopian king, in order to have a claim to the throne, must be related to Menelik the First, and by therefore being related to Menelik the First, you're related to Solomon, Solomon to David, and then by whatever, you are a cousin of Jesus the Christ, the Lord. So that's how you get your claim to the throne in Ethiopia. Haile Selassie the First, getting into his life,
like grandfathered into heaven if you're related to Jesus.
I don't know.
Do you still have to be a good person, or you're like, nah, man, I'm of the royal blood.
I don't
get a free pass on this one
because I'm
slide right past those per the gates. You know,
I'm just trying to get in it myself.
Okay,
and I have no clue, and you are really dragging me down with all those questions about how you get in there. And I'm supposed to be.
I'm a man with questions. Okay,
I'm supposed to be evangelizing you, but I'm just doing a history podcast. No. So, Haile Selassie the First, original name Tafari Makonnen, was born July 23rd, 1892, and Ejirsagora, Ethiopia, near Harar, Ethiopia. I'm gonna mess a lot of these names up because I have no perspective on how you say these names. I have no clue. And I love y'all. My black brothers and sisters, but I don't know how to do this.
I don't know how to say this shit.
And I'm trying. There was a fucking blackout, and it's been cold, and I don't have water, so I'm gonna fuck your names up. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's okay. We've been through it lately.
I've been through it. I've been through it. Texas is fucking me right now. Okay,
it's crazy. As
the lights go out, the fuck. Okay, so Tafari, you might notice that name. You might that sounds familiar. In Ethiopia, there's the word Ras at this time. Ras means Lord, and his first name is Tafari. His name is Tafari Makonnen, but first name Tafari. When you combine those, what it was commonly called, first name Rastafari. Rastafarianism comes from the name Lord Tafari, Rastafarianism. It's funny. But then you think about how your religion's name sounds. Christianity, that's just after a nigga's last name. Your Baptist, Baptist, just after the Baptist. Judaism, just after a country. How's Americanism sound? Stupid, doesn't it?
Stupid.
Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. Jainism.
It all looks and sounds wild.
Taoism.
I don't know.
Zoroastrianism.
Well, Taoism is technically the force that controls the
Tao.
The
Tao. But
the Tao,
isn't
the
that
Tao
like
is that's kind of a dope thing.
God, just like a de-anthropomorphized God is the Tao.
All right, we're getting too deep in that.
We're getting too deep.
We're getting too deep in that. All right. So Tafari Makonnen, Rastafari, who, as he'll be later known, was the great grandson of Haile Selassie of Shewa or Showa, and a son of Ras Makonnen, a chief advisor to Emperor Menelik II. Not the son of Menelik I, but a descendant of Menelik I. So Tafari was educated by French missionaries. Everybody was impressed with his intellectual abilities. He went on to be the governor of Sidamo, and then on to be the governor of Harar province. And at this time, you have to say the power structure of Ethiopia is kind of built and kind of having kind of three pillars. One, there's the emperor, the kind of Solomonic bloodline. That is then validated by the church, which is the Coptic Orthodox Church, which is like, like there's Catholics. Do you know Coptic Christians?
Man, I've heard the term.
These are the Christians from like Alexandria and like Egypt. Like they can also trace their shit to like Jesus. You know what I mean? So that later becomes let me make sure on the naming here, that later then becomes the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and that's part of like something that Haile Selassie will do. And then also in the third pillar in that power structure is the aristocrats. And there are at the time Ethiopia is kind of split into like these, like it's like feudal kingdoms. It's not like a real country. Like most of these places aren't real countries, but like the emperor of course has his power, but then he has to gather these lords, these Rosses, to then they all have to give them all stuff, and like they have to gather, and then they've all pledged their allegiance to the Ethiopian Empire, but it's very much a feudal type situation.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1911, Rastafari he was married to Wezaro Minin, a great granddaughter of Menelik II. When Menelik II died in 1913, his grandson Lige Yasu succeeded to the throne.
Tafari kind of married into royalty? He was like close to royalty? He was like
from
upper class? And then he just like
he's descended from the Solomonic bloodline. Okay. He's in there, from my understanding. I'm pretty sure he's in there. He marries and then like reasserts. Like now he's married into, and then he's
consolidate
also like,
the royal blood.
He's also like in there. Yeah, like he's fucking. He has a rightful like heir to the throne. Like it's there.
He's got a claim.
He got a claim, but he doesn't have as much as claim as Lige Yasu.
Right on.
Lige Yasu as like is Lige Yasu was like a young kid. He was like in his teens when he kind of ascended to the throne, and after I think what was his grandfather or his after his grandfather died, Lige Yasu like was in this position of like where he was like reaching out to like Muslims in this heavily Christian empire. Mm-hmm. And people were like, oh, he converted to Islam and all this shit. And they were talking shit on him. Also, he was, and they like kind of got him off the throne because he was like associating too much with Islam and promoting religious tolerance amongst like Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is at this time, I'm pretty sure still is Muslim and Christian, and I think there's a lot of Jews there also.
What a bad guy.
Yeah. So
promoting tolerance and coexistence. What a monster.
So he basically Tafari is part of like this kind of cabal that gets him off of the throne. And Lijiasu is kind of a foreboding sign because Lijiasu, of course, was promoting religious tolerance. He also mistrusted colonial powers and was like an early Pan-African supporter of like if I'm correct, Somali rebels against Britain and Italy.
Okay.
Like, but it was the internal struggles and pissing people off internally within Ethiopia made people get rid of him. And by get rid of him, they arrested him. He got thrown off the throne. And after that, Tafari became a rallying point for the Christian resistance, and they deposed Lijiasu in 1916. Empress Daditu, Menelik II's daughter, there became the empress in 1917. Rastafari was named her regent, and he was the heir apparent to the throne. Now,
Zaditu must have been super young.
And no, Zaditu was old. Zaditu was like,
okay, yeah,
she was like kind of older, and it was like, and Zaditu was known for being conservative. Rastafari was the progressive, and he became the focus of aspirations of like modernist, younger generation type people, because this is that 1917 period where I think we're talking about Martin.
The Beto O'Rourke of 20th century Ethiopia.
He's about making these small progressive changes that don't really attack a lot of the power bases concerning him.
Don't address the underlying systemic rot, but it looks nice on the surface.
No, I mean, I would say Rastafari probably did a little bit more than Beto O'Rourke, because we've all done more than Beto O'Rourke.
I mean, Beto O'Rourke did call a lot of old people during the blizzard, so
he did. Okay,
you watch your mouth.
All right, I'll wash my mouth out with soap. And it's that time in like the 19-teens when it's like people, black people especially, are becoming like super like there's in all these countries, really, all these countries of like the southern hemisphere, or like black and brown countries. There's like this ascendant class of like young professional type people who are like, under this, like under colonialism, they're like, this is wrong, but also underneath this Ethiopian empire, which is at the time, they're going, oh, this is we would like to change things for the better. I've read some books, stuff like that. So you can address it. When you think about Haile Selassie, people have called him the Ethiopian Machiavelli, because he would have these like coups of success, and he like built his whole reign of power basically by going, hey, one motherfucker, like basically by playing people against each other. That's all he does. But he plays people against each other to where they beat each other up, but so they're never as powerful as him. It's brilliant. It's a mechanism of power. It's fucked up, but like it's Machiavelli-ish. So in March 1918, this is a story with one example. March 1918, unpaid soldiers assembled in the capital school in the capital. Selassie used the movement, and they were mad because they were unpaid. He used this movement to get rid of a council of ministers that were like competing with his power as regent with the empress, because the empress was following everything that they were saying, and he used those soldiers to get rid of they were complaining. It's like, we gotta get rid of this council of ministers.
So Selassie's basically just like, I understand your plight. I hear your concerns. I understand you want to get paid. You know whose fucking fault this is?
It's the ministers, dude.
It's the council of ministers. It's not my fault. You got to take it up with the council of ministers, man. We should get them to resign. Okay.
And so these unpaid, so they ended up getting rid of those council of ministers, and this group that then disbands, and kind of like those people in this group, they kind of disaggregate into history. This group calls itself the Derg. Now, the Derg as a name, I think it means council or committee in like the Ethiopian language, council of committee. I don't know. It's something like that. Well, that name will then come back years later to haunt Haile Selassie. kind of moving forward, in 1923, in 1923, he had conspicuous, he had some success. He got Ethiopia into the League of Nations. In 1928, he assumed the title of Negus, which means king. And then 2 years later, after that, in 1930, he was crowned emperor on November the 2nd, 1930, and took the name Haile Selassie, which means might of the Trinity.
It's pretty sick.
He
that's a pretty sick might of the Trinity.
Might
like
of
I
the
am a sword of the Holy Trinity. That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty fucking sick. There's a lot of good names in here. He visited Jerusalem, Rome, Paris, and London. It became the first Ethiopian.
Might as well
ruler.
name yourself like Jesus Christ
you
bicep.
You might. I mean, might of the Trinity, might of the Trinity, brother.
Right here, brother.
Might of the goddamn Trinity, brother. So he went on to visit Jerusalem, Rome, Paris, and London, and became the first Ethiopian ruler to ever grow abroad. Like Ethiopians, they're like, nah, we don't really fuck
super
with
isolationist.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and his title at this time is called, because he's kind of a king within all these kind of feudal lords, all the feudal Rosses, if you want to, if you per se. His title is King of Kings, and it's called, and that in that language, or Ethiopian language, is Nagusa Nagast, the King of Kings, which is for every now and then, every 5 to 10 years, I want to say, there will be a conscious rapper who wants to reframe the N word, reframe the word nigga, and then they'll learn about the Ethiopian version of nigos, which means kings. And they'll try to be like, no, we're meant to be kings. They'll get that off. Like they'll be like, Kendrick Lamar is the last person who did it, like 5 years ago, where it's like, see, negus means it's a common ploy of the conscious rapper to tail to Ethiopian history and go, nah, negus.
We're like yeah.
No, we're not calling each other niggas. We're calling each other neguses.
What's up, king?
Yeah, what's up, king?
It's what's up, king? My king.
Yeah, my kings, huh? So the Ethiopian, his ceremony where he was crowned was reported around the world, in terms of it was reported around the world. People sent like correspondence to it. They were dignitaries from all of the European powers, because he's sitting in this weird part of the world. He's sitting in the Horn of Africa, where there's Italian Somaliland, Italian Somalia, I'm pretty sure, Italian Somalia, and then there's British Somalia, and then if I'm correct, there's Djibouti, which is a French outcave, and then Eritrea is something different also. There is a colonial thing where he's around him, where he's also just trying to get to he's trying to get a seaport on the Red Sea, so he can have access to that seaport, and the Red Sea,
to
and
get a cut of the global trade passing through.
Yeah,
and the
because
Suez Canal is open by now. So if you're a stopping point along the Red Sea on the way to Suez, then you're gonna make a pretty penny. You're gonna do all right
along that Horn of Africa. Oh, then he also there's at in the also, and that's his whole goal, but they never give it to him, because they're they're not,
don't get ahead of yourself, kid.
Yeah,
you
after
might be
World
king
War
of
II,
kings, but you can't sit with the big boys.
Yeah, after World War II, there's different and then there's so they kind of fuck with them, but that's a whole different. That we'll get to that later. The only way in the Ethiopia at this time is basically through Djibouti, through Harar, and it's a train. It's and then you get into Ethiopia, and then you get into the kingdom of the Empire of Ethiopia at the time.
You ever had Ethiopian food?
No, I have had this Ethiopian sauce that Mahoney made. It was fucking good, dude. Shout out Mahoney Shleshi, man. That's our local Ethiopian.
That's our.
I hate to call him our local Ethiopian. He's not even local anymore. That's fucked up. I don't know.
Ethiopian food's pretty good. There's this restaurant in Austin that we went to, and it was just you order a bunch of shit on and it comes in a big serving plate, and then they give you like, I would call them tortillas. They're probably not tortillas. It's just like little bread, and that's like your utensil, and you pick it up with the bread and eat it. It was pretty good actually. I wish I remembered the place. I think it was near Cap City. I don't know if it still is. It might be closed due to COVID, but this is a fond memory that I have of my time at the Texas Tribune Festival, and I just wanted to share it with you and our listeners. So
all right. So I don't know how much they paid you for that plug, but that was kind of weird. Also, like the Lucy's is pretty good here in Houston. Lucy's. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the Ethiopian spot here. That's like big. All right. Back to Haile Selassie.
Right.
Yeah, luxurious 14-day ceremony. Like that's how long his coronation ceremony was, 14 days. It was like super dope. There's pictures of it. It's like the most jewels, the most fabulous shit. This is inspiring for Black people all across the world. The international press made fun of it. They're like little fuck ups. And the international press, like especially they're dicks already, but they're especially dicks when it's like people of color that think that they better than me. I'm like, I'm gonna be a dick to this guy. So kind of moving forward, 1931, promulgated a new constitution, which like limited the power, like which gave like a parliament, but it was like a very limited parliament. And Haile Selassie was in effect the Ethiopian government. He was like in charge of everything. The constitution also, he like established provincial schools. He like strengthened the police force. It progressively it progressively outlawed feudal taxation, which is like how the aristocrats got their money, so they could how the Rosses across the country, the basically like the weird kind of warlord governors, how they could raise their personal armies and kind of keep their own personal power. He kind of destroyed that at the time, or led to basically becoming nothingness. And it increased the authority of the central government, and and kind of put all power into his hands.
That's kind of a mixed bag, I guess, coming from like my orientation, where it's like schools are good, strengthen police force. Like I guess if you need it, feudal taxation. He's like taking a stab at corporate Ethiopia, but as like a federal figure, you know what I mean? If it's like he it's usually you kind of want those things to be bottom up, but this is like top down, taking a swipe right at him, which maybe there's something to be said that he's the only one that could have done that given those situations. Is that like there was no organic anti-corporate movement or anti-aristocrat movement, and so he's like, no, I'm just gonna do it unilaterally because I recognize it for what it is.
There's an anti-aristocrat movement. Again, he is the kind of the progressive like figure. So that does exist. Asfa Wilson Asarate in the book basically kind of plays it in that he's kind of doing a Machiavellian play to gain more power underneath him. And he is the only, he kind of is funneling himself to being the only pillar. But at the time, kind of taking the pillar that was the fucking Ethiopian aristocrats, and now funneling under and like putting all of that power underneath himself. In terms of a bureaucracy and then a national army. And we'll see how that works.
Okay, right on.
And then we get to the Wall incident. There was an Italian-Ethiopian treaty of 1928. This like defining the border between Italian Somaliland, or I thought it was Somalia, Somaliland, and Ethiopia. In 1930, Italy built a fort at the Wall Oasis in eastern Ogaden, which is like southern Ethiopia, well within the Ethiopian border. There was kind of getting through the story. There was a border surveying commission. They were confronted by a group of kind of Italian and Somalian soldiers. The Brits who were with the Ethiopian surveying group wanted to avoid international incidents, so they left. The Ethiopians stayed, and then from December 5th and through 7th of 1934. Like it's kind of a he said she said thing. Anyway, they have a clash on the border. It's probably the Italians because they're fucking deep in Ethiopian territory. And there are colonial
Italy in
force.
the 30s is not the most trustworthy.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna get to the Italians.
Like, so, I don't know.
So probably the Italians attacked it, and then approximately in the end, 107 Ethiopians were killed, and then 50 Italians and Somalis were killed. This gives a pretext to Mussolini El Duce to invade. It's Il Duce. I don't know how to fucking say it.
I don't know if it's calling him the Deuce feels wrong, but also right in some ways. You know,
that's
like
what he likes to call himself.
The Deuce. He's like the shit that Italy took. You know,
it was a pretty big shit on Ethiopia in particular.
Dropping deuces.
Deuces. So French. So the French and the English basically have a free hand to Italy, hoping they will side with them. And the upcoming confrontation that everybody knows is about to happen with Germany, because the Italians and the Germans they're having a row. Hitler and Il Duce and Mussolini did not like each other for a good moment. They were there was some concern over the annexation of Austria. So the French and the English are like, yo, fuck with us. We're not gonna let you fuck up those black. You can fuck up those black people all you want, as long as when the big one comes, you're on our side again.
Yeah.
And that, well, as we know, that didn't work out.
Man, Europe's a clusterfuck.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Clusterfuck. On October 3rd, 1935, Italian armed forces from Eritrea invaded Ethiopia, thus starting the second Italian Abyssinian War. Italy's still angry about the first Italian-Ethiopian War, 1895 to 1896, which ended in Italian defeat, and they're still ashamed about that. Italy is trying to claim Ethiopia as its protectorate, and they're trying to create their whole kind of a empire that now stretches from, I think, from Libya, that was stretched from Libya down into Eastern Africa.
This is all during the scramble for Africa in the late 19th century, isn't it?
That was back then, 1895, 1896. This is now, they're trying, because they're fascists. They're trying to they're trying to make Italy great again. So they need to recreate the Roman Empire, which was a lot about. It was all Duce used to talk about.
Well, if you want to rebuild the Roman Empire, the first thing you need to do is to conquer new territories,
exactly,
Rome did, and so that's
and get too spread out, and then get killed by the people that you were paying to protect you.
Exactly, by the quote unquote savage hordes.
Great. So yes, so Haile Selassie leads the resistance, is on the front lines. He fights. He fires machine guns.
That's pretty sick.
You showed
me that picture of him on the book cover, and I was like, there are two things that this man does not do, and that is smoke weed and fire machine guns. I was wrong about one of them. So
all right. Then the book, in the book, it was fire a machine gun at aircrafts. He did gonna hop on an aircraft gun once. And there are other things in the book where he didn't fight, so I'm not gonna give him the most fighting ass.
Okay, all right.
But he did lead a resistance and planning and stuff, and fought against the Italians. But it's kind of pointless because it's Italian tank and machine guns versus spears and swords, with some bullets and because not a lot though. Italian troops.
You want to have a thumb war with me?
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's do it.
I have a gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will shoot you before that. I will win the thumb war. Okay.
Italian troops. This is a war where Italian troops were used mustard gas a lot, in violation of the Geneva Convention. And basically, all those things added up. In May 1936, he was he was forced into exile. Some people would never forgive him for going in exile, and leaving and fleeing Ethiopia. Also on his way out of Ethiopia, Lid Jayusu, who had been in prison this whole time, just ends up dead. just
Okay.
just ends up dead
Okay.
all of a sudden. Like, so like that's the thing. Like I fuck with, like I get Haile Selassie because there's a lot of stuff later, and it's like this. He's like kind of an iconic figure for Black people in the 20s and 30s, and like this kind of in like colonialism and segregation, all type of stuff. A Black king, that's amazing. But then like he is just doing Machiavellian games to maintain his power in the actual Ethiopia. It is kind of a wild vibe. So this kind of is the incident he's probably the most known for. He then goes to the League of Nations, and he appeals for help. In like his most memorable speech, it's in Geneva on June 30th, 1936. He goes, this is some excerpts from the speeches. I assert that the issue before the assembly today is not sought merely a question of the settlement in the matter of Italian aggression. It is a question of collective security, of the very existence of the League, of the trust placed by states in international treaties. If the value of promises made to small states that their integrity and independence shall be respected and assured. In a word, it is international morality that is at stake. Ending with, he kind of said this is his most like prophetic line. It is us today, it will be you tomorrow, to a collection of European of the League of Nations in 1936, which motherfucker was right. Motherfucker was really right.
Was like, not wrong.
It was not wrong about that. So getting more into the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, he leaves and he's in exile. And during the Italian occupation, he lives in England, in Bath, which is the town in England. I think it's the western part of England. I don't know. He's basically broke. He's fucking broke. It's like he's kind of surviving on donations from like Ethiopian like aristocrats or people who have went abroad. It's more of a desperate situation, but he endures it with like some quiet dignity. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, by all estimates, hundreds of thousands of Ethiopian civilians died as a result of the Italian invasion, including during the reprisal of the Yekatat 12 massacre in Addis Ababa, in which as many as 30,000 civilians were killed. The Yekatat 12 massacre, led by the Italian black shirts, basically was a massacre and imprisonment of Ethiopians by the occupation forces following an attempted assassination of Marshal Rodolfo Graziani, real dick, the Marquis of Negete, and the Viceroy of Italian East Africa. I think the Marquis is the Marquis of Negete. I think he is the Viceroy of Italian Africa. Never mind. A 2017 history of the massacre estimated that 19,200 people were killed. 19,200 people were killed, and that's going to equal 20% of Addis Ababa at the time. So
Jesus,
it was just it's characterized in the book as them just Italian black shirts just going through Addis Ababa and just shooting down any person, men, women, and children in the street. Just like, and there's like just bodies strewn all over the street. This is also a time because what happened was it was like some Eritreans or Ethiopian. I think it was Eritreans that like they went and they like opposed and they got into like this ceremony that the Italians were having, and they tried to kill some people, kill some Italian higher ups. They ended up failing, and then that guy who's like that Graziani guy fucking just scorched her. Burned, just tried to kill everybody. Tried to kill men, just killed a bunch of men, women, children. 19,000 low estimates. Some people say 30,000. It's just like kind of continues this way. In May 1937, Graziani ordered 297 monks of the monastery of Debris Libranos and 23 other individuals suspected of complicity in that other earlier assassination attempt, or the supporting rebels. He ordered 297 monks shot, and then over 100 deacons and students were executed. Several hundred monks were sent to concentration camps. There were some war crimes on the Ethiopian side, but it was like mainly against like Italian citizens and like Eritrean Ascaris, which is one of my like favorite words that I learned recently. Ascari, which is
Ascaris.
Ascaris means it means colonial, like black Africans. I think it's Arab. It can be an Arab word also. People who fight for colonial forces under colonial armies, and it's also something nowadays that they use in like London for like police. That's the Ascar.
Ascaris.
Yeah, like that's the Ascar right there.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean the colonial police. You enforcing colonial rule on us. It's
or like the Uncle Toms.
Yeah.
Ascaris.
The Ascaris, dog. Everybody can be an Ascari in the right position. Y'all all Ascaris. All right. So World War II, then it commences, right? Because we're in that era. That kind of turns the situation around for Haile Selassie. Britain gets involved in the war. He secures British assistance. And forming a army of Ethiopian exiles in Sudan. British and Ethiopian forces invade Ethiopia in January 1941. They recaptured Addis Ababa several months later. This is the part of history where Haile Selassie teams up with the Gideon Force, which is a force under Ord Wingate, who's like the super British Zionist, unshaven, didn't shower guy, only bathed by dipping his butt in an oasis every now and then.
Okay, so just likes
just
to party, just a cool guy.
Yeah, just the most British ass World War II ass nigga.
Ord Wingate at your service.
That exact vibe. You're there. So it was made up of 50 officers, 20 British NCOs, 800 fully trained Sudanese troops, and 800 partially trained Ethiopian regulars. And in total, they numbered like 2,000 men, and they had 18,000 camels meant for transport. They're like this iconic thing of like Haile Selassie, this Solomonic bloodline king, returning on camels through the desert to reclaim his kingdom. They didn't do much fighting though. Like they weren't like the main force that took it, but like they came through the Sudanese desert, like through South Sudan, through Ethiopia, returning to Addis Ababa.
Wait, then who the fuck is Gideon?
It's a Gideon force is like it's a biblical kind of thing. He's making that Ord Wingate is he's because of Haile Selassie's Solomonic bloodline is championing him. I forgot what Gideon is. I forgot. I don't really know what it is.
But it's like a biblical.
It's a biblical
to a figure in the Bible.
Yeah, it's a
okay.
Let me just, I can look this up right now. Yeah, and that don't tell me nothing. I'm not going into who Gideon was right now. We're moving on. But it's like a biblical thing, a reference to the, of course, maybe or supposedly, Haile Selassie being related to Jesus himself, or the Bible and David and all that stuff and Solomon. Not supposedly, I think he actually is. So although he was reinstated as emperor after like the British kind of took Italy from after the British took Ethiopia from the Italians. So he's reinstated as emperor. He tried to recreate the authority he previously had, and like the British after World War II give him his country, and then they also give him Eritrea. So he has Eritrea and he has Ethiopia, and it's not. I'm pretty sure like ancient Ethiopian Empire also included Somalia, but I don't quote me on that. He again tries to implement social, economic, and educational reforms, but like not power reforms. You know what I mean? It's like he's doing good stuff, but nothing to do with this power.
Yeah. I'm still going to keep the parliament as weak as possible.
Yeah.
But also, you get some good shit. So don't worry too much about it.
He does this thing where he leaves out rebel leaders who fought the Italian occupation out of his rule. Like he just leaves them out. Like they get basically nothing.
You can't do that.
And
I mean, you can, but you shouldn't.
He turns to people that he probably was more kind of close to, or had more of a common shared knowledge with. He turns to the people who were aristocrats before, like not aristocrats, not the Razas, but that new kind of class of like motherfuckers like that who are like educated and like, the new bureaucrats and shit. He turns to them. But the problem with them is that a lot of them have been either like rich people in exile, or they were collaborators. So that's like his government's all made up of like people who like didn't even fight in this war or fought for, basically collaborated.
Yeah.
After the war, after World War II.
Snakes in the grass.
He sends troops to the Korean War. Like it's kind of his kind of statement that he's like part of the UN, as a senior statesman. So he's sending troops abroad. This is the time when the UK pulls out and the US steps in.
Yeah.
In 1955.
It's because like Truman had his whole thing about Korea where he was like, it can't be a U.S. invasion or U.S. can't be the only ones fighting this. It's got to be the UN.
It'll be the UN.
Because we went as far as to build this whole new international organization. And if we don't use it, it'll just prove how inept in an international organization. It was like a blanket for the U.S. to intervene.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that Truman was like, thank you, Haile Selassie.
Look,
for at least making this an international brigade,
There were he becomes like the senior statesman in like in international stuff, and it seems how it affects Ethiopia later is it's interesting. So in 1955, he granted a new constitution, giving him as much power as the previous one. The Ethiopian government continues to be an expression of Haile Selassie's personal authority. He was known for having like this impressive memory. Like he would be able to remember little details of little things of any like across the government spectrum. But like you can't run a government like that. And then he also had this kind of trait of this thing called I forgot the name for it, and I think it's called Shamshir, but I'm not too sure about that. It was basically he hired and fired people. So once he hired you, you got too powerful, you got too popular. Oh, now all of a sudden you're a governor in a far flung province. Oh, you just did something really good and everybody loves you. Now all of a sudden you're the fucking ambassador to Fiji. Like, okay. And so he's constantly doing that. They kind of talk about the Ethiopian government at this time being there's the lower garage and there's the higher garage. The lower garage is like the House of Representatives. The higher garage is the Senate and all like it's like Council of Ministers. And you just kind of transition between the two. like you just kind of, it's a merry-go-round, you going around.
You keep it mobile. There's like the inverse of what is it called? Too good to promote.
Yeah.
It's like you're actually too good, so I'm going to promote you for that exact reason, to get you away from whatever entrenched power you have or whatever popular support you have. I'm gonna get you the fuck out of here.
So basically, like during this time, there are people like, yo, you maybe need to transform the government. Maybe we need to like chill out. You know what I mean? Maybe we need to like you become a constitutional monarchy. That stuff it's rising up at this time. Overt opposition to his rule surfaced in December 1960, when a dissident wing of the army secured control of Addis Ababa, but was dislodged by loyalist elements. And this is like the first, like not the first one, but this was like a big. This is 1960 is a big year because it's like, this is like the army is now like they have the elements within them that are beefing with you, and it's not good. Also,
you can't just fire the Council of Ministers this time. You got to actually do something about it.
You actually do, and it doesn't seem like it's God, the government did work like it. It was very slow. Like he would do shit that was nice, but didn't make any sense on like every college student that went out of country to go to school. he would meet with them personally. And when they came back. Also, if you were a tourist to Ethiopia at this time, everybody met Haile Selassie.
Okay.
It's like, yo, but then people are gonna start starving later.
How many translators did he have?
I don't know. I don't know. Either he spoke all the languages or there just weren't that many tourists to Ethiopia, which actually,
there's got to be one or the other.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other.
The logistics of this just don't make sense.
It's a lot. Okay, so also on September 1st, 1961, the ELF was founded, the Eritrean Liberation Front, under the leadership of Hamid Idris Awate,
aka Elf.
Yeah, which is not a great name.
Not great.
And they would wage an armed struggle for independence from 1961, and then all the way till 1991 when they finally secured their independence. I think they were. I don't know about them guys. Yeah. I have some bad. There's something bad happening in Eritrea, and I don't know if these guys are good, and I don't know at all. And then
because I don't know what the schism is between Eritrea and Ethiopia, but I do know the only thing I know is that Eritrea is its own country now, but I don't know.
This is
why or how or.
No, they won their war for independence in 1991. In 1962, after they tried to wage a armed struggle for independence, that's when Haile Selassie unilaterally dissolved the Eritrean parliament and annexed the country. So I mean, like this is what I'm saying. Like, great, like incredible, like figure for Black people, but like in terms of like a real deal like ruler, if you're a Eritrean, he's not a great guy for you. You know what I mean?
He's a politician.
He's a politician. He's the Ethiopian Machiavelli. You know what I mean? Haile Selassie played an important role in also establishing the Organization of African Unity in 1963. This is the precursor to the African Union. African Union, of course, is headquartered in Addis Ababa for this reason. He plays a fatherly role to, like, people would leave and he'd be like, my son, stay. This is important. Like, he was the head guy of this African states kind of collective. And that was like kind of like one of the highlights of his rule, like kind of establishing that.
African Union is still very active.
It's very active, but I don't want. Let me not talk shit about the African Union. I don't really. Let me read a book on that before I fucking go deep. So he does. He also, like, this time, like the kind of Americans are like kind of being like iffy on if they're gonna give them money and like give them development funds and shit, and then he'll like flirt with non-aligned shit, and then like kind of pull back and flirt with it, and basically like he just kind of he starts playing the game of like, am I non-aligned? I'm gonna visit Moscow once or twice. In 1966, Haile Selassie visits Jamaica, and this is probably why most people know Haile Selassie is through the medium of Rastafarianism. He's particularly popular in terms of Rastafarianism, from my understanding, because Marcus Garvey makes him popular, because then Marcus Garvey's Pan-African sentiment, there needs to be a king of all these African peoples. He looks to Africa, he sees this nigga draped in gold and diamonds, and he's like, yo, Haile Selassie, who's descendant from the Solomonic bloodline, you're gonna be our king. And so people in Jamaica, in this like anti-colonial anti-colonial like religion, they don't want to be confined to like the Babylon ways, which are the current world's ways. So they grow their dreads out, and smoke weed. Like, that's Rastafarianism, and that places Haile Selassie as according to your interpretation of Rastafarian thought, he's the second coming, or he's the prophet, depending on interpretation. He denied this so many times. He denied it so many times. Like, he denied it, and he was like, people were like, because he was Christian himself, And like the Coptic Christian church or the Ethiopian Coptic Christian church would be like, yeah, like, you know, you're not God, right? And he'd be like, yeah, no, I am.
I know.
Because that's one pillar of his power. He has to keep those people happy. So he's like, I'm not God, dude. I need you guys to know that I don't think I'm God because I want you. We got to stay in power.
I'm not. That would be such a weird position to be in. Like if everybody's trying to make, like, no, like if you didn't want to be the prophet, but everybody was trying to make you be the prophet, like, no, this is your burden, man. This is you. And it's like, I'm not this guy that I know you want me to be him, but it's not me, man.
It's a weird thing also where it's but then like you can't argue with Rastafarians. You just can't, because like the people would be.
I don't even know why I would.
In the book, the person who wrote this has like knew Haile Selassie. He had met. I think the person that met Haile Selassie like various times, and like would face to face with Rastafarians and be like, "Yo, I've met. He's not God." And the Rastafarians, something about Rastafarianism makes you wise as fuck, because they'd just be like, "Yes, but the nose is right before the eyes, but sometimes I don't see it." Damn, nigga. Damn. Don't hit me with those. Don't hit me like with that saying like that. Don't do that.
Yeah. Pretty good.
This kind of leads 1966.
But also, wouldn't the Lord be humble? Wouldn't the second coming of Christ, wouldn't that incarnation, wouldn't he be full of humility? So much humility to the point that he might deny he is who he knows he is, maybe. It's all pillar of it. It's all part of the grand design. It's all part of the plan, man.
In 1966, when he visits Jamaica, and he gets off the plane, people like, it was just like all Rastafarians there to meet him, because it's like the second coming of Christ, dude. Like, fuck yeah, I'm going to the airport. I'm taking off work. I'm going to the airport. And people like said like, yeah, they saw holes in his hands. Like people said that.
Damn.
So like, look.
I think they were just trying to get in the papers.
I mean, look, I don't know, dude. I don't know. One of the people there, was this girl named Rita Anderson. And she was a young Black girl, and she so impressed by Haile Selassie, and so blown away by his presence, when seeing him on a visit to Jamaica, to Kingston, then goes back to her boyfriend, and tells him about seeing the King of Kings, seeing Haile Selassie. Her boyfriend, Rita Anderson's boyfriend, is Bob Marley, and that's like one of the pillars. She's one of the people who got Bob Marley into Rastafarianism. He was hanging around Rastafarianism, Rastafari at the time, but she's also one of the figures that pushed them into that world and into that life, of my understanding, if the book is correct.
It all comes together, man.
Or if the thing I watched on is correct. Yeah, so
the Lord works in mysterious ways.
He does.
Okay.
He does. So here's the thing. Haile Selassie just kind of ruling. He just kind of doing his thing. But like Ethiopia is kind of fucked. It's like it's not doing great. It's like there was a famine. There was starvation going on. And there in the government had to go up this incredible chain to get anything really done to Haile Selassie. And it's just not an efficient way to manage a government.
Too much red tape.
Yeah, too much red tape. Too much. There's only one tape, and only one person has scissors. He's the only person who cut the shit. So in 1974, during a famine, worsening unemployment, and political stagnation, the political stagnation of his government, our units in the army mutinied. It's called the Creeping Coup. The Creeping Coup. It's like termed a Creeping Coup because it lasted for several months. They deposed Haile Selassie and established a provisional military government. And the people who did that, the group that did that, who mutinied, called itself the Derg. The kind of referencing back to the first Derg. and they espoused like a Marxist ideology, and there was a jostle between Marxists and moderates, and the Marxists won out. Haile Selassie was kept under house arrest.
And Gerald Ford shit his pants.
Okay. Haile Selassie was kept under house arrest in his own palace, where he spent the remainder of his life. He died on August 27, 1975, in the National Palace. Some people say complications from a prostate surgery, and other people say strangulation. Probably strangulation.
What, by like a guard or caretaker or something?
Yeah, by the Derg.
Oh.
By the Derg.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And
so these not just your Twitter Marxists.
These are the real radical, these are the dudes.
Real deal.
The Derg then propagates what is known. Let me just get this stat. The Derg propagates what's called the Red Terror in Ethiopia, which is a time which is a time between I think 1976 and 1977 in Ethiopia and Eritrea, that estimates between 30,000 to 750,000 people were killed over the course of the Red Terror, or they call it the Keisha.
Wait, 30,000 or 300,000?
They say so. I'm just reading Wikipedia right now
because that's probably Derg numbers.
Derg is like 30,000. It's probably closer to 750,000 people.
In Ethiopia died from. How much of that is famine and how much of that is?
Look, I didn't do a Derg. We didn't do a Derg podcast. We did a Haile Selassie podcast.
Fair enough. Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and then it makes Haile Selassie look like the Christ.
Yeah, we thought we had it bad.
Yeah, like he left. The Derg came.
Really bad. Yeah,
the Derg came, which is also the worst name.
It's not great. I didn't want to insult the language.
No,
the Derg.
The Derg. It does sound like a South Park episode. But let's not get into that. So that in essence is the life of Haile Selassie. It's an interesting life because he's not somebody of. It's weird to think about like him and try to think of his mind state, because he's not somebody who is of the it's a black mind state, it's an African mind state, but it's not like the way. He's pre all this. He's Abyssinian. He's Ethiopian Empire. Like that's how he thinks, and it's interesting to see. Like it was interesting. He was like the last vestige of like this foregone, ancient, beautiful Africa that existed, which was real. This is a real place. But yeah,
I kind of see what you mean about the mindset, where it's like. A lot of other people are coming to these thoughts organically and through their own experience, arriving at those conclusions. And Haile Selassie is like, yeah, I've been in it.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like I don't know if I would even say that. I think it's more of, I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm cross-pollinating thoughts. I don't know. But it seems like he just was. He's black, but he's almost like before anything. Like people say, "Oh, I'm black." Before anything, it was like almost like I am a Solomaic bloodline and Abyssinian. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's his reality, and it's linking to something that I guess in our kind of mind in this current world is something that's kind of been lost. You know what I mean? Like these ancient African
a concrete link to antiquity.
Yeah, he's like a concrete link to antiquity that black people could see at the time. So I get why people are like, "Yo, Haile Selassie, King of Kings, Negus and Negast, all this stuff." I get it. In the book that I read, and feel free to recommend other books. I'm interested to read. I love I'm reading now. I'm a reading guy. But it seemed of course there were great triumphs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there were also he was a complex character that more evoked the Ethiopian Machiavelli term. That in my mind, I was like, yeah, this dude's playing people against each other. He's fucking doing all this different stuff. Voila, you guys both are fucked, and now I'm king. Like.
And he ruled for 60 years.
Ruled for 60 years,
roughly. Probably closer to 50, but 50 to 60 years. This is a good reign. That's a good run.
No, it was about 45 because it was 30. It was 30. 1930 he became king.
What was 1917? Was he a regent?
Or... No, 1917 was like, I think that's when he became. No, I thought he became regent. Yeah, but look,
50 years.
50. We'll call it 50. We'll call it around 50. We'll call it around 50 because he was a regent. Okay, we can do that. And guys, that's been our podcast on the King of Kings, the Negusa Negast, the might of the Trinity, Haile Selassie. We want to thank you guys for listening. Henry, who are we doing next week?
Next week, it was supposed to be the start of women. It is the start of Women's History Month. We are now a week behind because of the blizzard and everything. We were going to do the Western Closure as a bonus episode, but shit got fucked up because our power is out for a fucking week. Anyways, next week, we're going to be looking at Marcus Garvey. And then we're going to start Women's History Month. We're going to start Women's History Month like a week after it's occurred with Angela Davis.
Yeah, though we make the power knocked us out because America has a shitty infrastructure problem, and
but some billionaires saved some money.
Yeah.
So
great,
all good.
Great.
All's
great, guys. You can follow us at Hardfire History on Instagram and Facebook. HFH Podcast on Twitter. You can follow me at Joshua B. Stokes on Instagram and Twitter, and Joshua Stokes on Facebook. Henry, where can they follow you at?
I'm just Henry E. Price on Instagram. Just Henry Price on Facebook.
Guys, thank you again for listening to the podcast. You're beautiful. Don't let anybody ever tell you different.
Spread the word. Tell your friends. All that shit. Do it. Please.
Yeah, but also be beautiful. That's what I'm doing.
And stay safe.
Stay safe out there.
And call your fucking grandma. All right.
Okay. All right. Personal issues on the other side of the phone. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye, guys.